What's up guys, I'm Sean. Next mod on my F82 M4 is upgrading the differential bushings. I noticed my rear differential bushing has a crack, so now it's time to upgrade it. The factory diff bracket only comes with one mount, so this bracket comes with an additional mount right here, and then it comes with an extra bolt that installs right here with the upgraded new bushing. And then the factory bolt you reuse with this upgraded bushing right here. This kit is a dual mount kit. It's going to give it more stability and less deflection. This is the Powerflex purple street bushing. So 2 new bushings for the rear, and then 4 new bushings for the front diff mount. It's so much work to change the diff bushings that you might as well change the front while you're at it. I picked this up from BimmerWorld. I've been working with them for the past decade now. They helped me build my E46 M3 track car, so now I'm working with them again on my F82 M4. Looking up at the rear differential bushing, you can see that it's cracked. So now it's time to replace it with an upgrade. Alright, I dropped the entire exhaust. Pretty straightforward. I left the hanger on there. Just removed the 13mm nuts, 2 right here, 2 on the other side. Unplug the exhaust valve wire on here and over there. Left the hanger on. Remove the nut right there, nut over there, the bracket in the middle. The hardest thing was trying to pry the exhaust from the downpipes. With the rear heat shield removed, you can see the front differential bracket, the 4 OEM bushings, 2 on this side and 2 on that side. Because it's so much work to replace the rear differential bushing, as far as dropping the exhaust, lowering the subframe, might as well change the front as well. And I removed the brake calipers on both sides, loosened up some of the wiring. I didn't unhook it, I just opened up that panel to create more slack. And then I lowered the subframe onto the transmission jack. So now I have more access to this 21mm bolt right here for the rear diff bushing. Alright, if you remove the driver's side lower shock bolt, it drops the subframe way down, so you have way more clearance. And also the front of the differential. This bolt right here is really hard to get to because of the gas tank, but now that the subframe has been lowered more, now I can get to that. I put a jack on that corner just to tilt the subframe to give even more clearance for this right here. Now I can loosen it. Grabbed another jack, because once you remove the bracket for the front diff and the rear diff, then now the diff is going to be hanging and not supporting the rear subframe. So you almost need like 2 spare jacks and a transmission jack. Transmission jack is going to hold the rear diff, and the floor jacks are going to hold the subframe. Remove the 18s. Now I'm going to try to remove these bushings without loosening the drive shaft at all. Back at the rear of the car, there's that one bolt right there I got to get to. It's 18mm, and one right there, and one right there. Now we're going to remove the 21. Oh, there's a nut back there. Oh, there it goes. That's why. Now I'm going to lift the subframe up. Lower the transmission jack so I can get access to the differential bracket. 18. So we're going to replace this single mount bracket with the Powerflex dual mount. So there's going to be another mount right here. Alright, the challenge is going to be removing the factory bushing right here. I've done something similar on my E46 M3. So most likely I'm probably gonna cut it out and use a sawzall to carefully cut this metal and then push it out, because I don't have the special tool to remove this bushing. Instead, I rented some generic tools from AutoZone, so I'm gonna try that out. I'm definitely not using the tool the way it's designed to be used. Just getting creative. Finally got the bushing to push inward. So now I can fit my sawzall in there once I push the bushing all the way through. This is how the factory diff bushing looks. And it's fluid filled. So if you have a bad crack, you'll start to leak fluid. Mine didn't leak any fluid. But after I finally pushed it out a second ago, then it started to leak. Now I'm going to be very careful and cut off this metal with my sawzall without cutting the rear subframe. So once I have a good cut, then I should be able to knock it out. I cut it right there, and I cut it right there to make it weaker, and now I can hammer out a piece. Look at that, not the ideal method, but it worked. I'm just gonna touch it up with a little bit of paint, make sure it's all nice and smooth before I install the Powerflex bushing back here. Alright, now we're at the front diff bracket. Definitely more room here, so hopefully it'll be easier. Alright, it works great on the inner bushing. It's pretty much out. I just have to knock it. All the front bushings have been removed. It was a lot of work, but it's definitely doable without removing the drive shaft on the rear or the front. And that was my goal. I wanted to remove the bushings without removing the drive shaft. And then I removed the bushings with this tool right here. You have to get creative, putting one of these cups on the back side and then pushing it out. If you have extra opening sockets like this, that will help too. Put the cup on one side and then put the socket on this side, and when you spin it, it basically forces the bushing out. We're going to start with the rear differential bushing first. This part of the bushing faces the rear of the car, and then this is the bushing that slides in from the front. Put some of that grease on here, and the middle inserted right here. Definitely nice that you don't have to press it in. The back side of the bushing, same thing. This one's gonna slide in the back side. I'm gonna lube up the pin, slide the stainless steel pin between the bushings. This bushing is in, the stainless steel pin is flush, and now I should do the same for this side. Alright, both sides are in. We're going to come back to the bushings later. Now we're going to mount the diff bracket. To mount the diff bracket, we're going to reuse the OEM bolts. This is the one that goes on the top. This one goes on the bottom right, bottom left, and we're going to use this later. The Powerflex kit came with some blue Loctite. We're going to put a little bit on. I'm going to start with the top one. I slide the diff bracket in. Let's start with the top bolt. Move the subframe up and down so we get room to get in there. Come in from the wheel well. Now install the two on the bottom. Torque the 3 bolts down to 88 foot-pounds. The diff bracket is tight. We're going to install those 2 upper bolts later. Now we're going to tackle the front diff bushings. Get the Powerflex bushing. put some lubricant. And this one, you see how there's a cutout right there, so it goes right here. All the backing bushings looks the same. That in the back, and the smaller pin goes in the back of the inner ones. Pin with the cutout goes into the front. Some grease here too, face of it. Something like that. And now for the outer bushing, same concept. Pin goes on the back. Another one goes in the front with the Powerflex grease. So we do the same for the other two. All the diff bushings have been installed. Now I just have to mount it to the differential and to the subframe. Put a little bit of Loctite on all the bolts. The 18mm goes in the middle. Now I'm going to angle the differential bracket and the diff and the subframe to line up the holes so I can install the Torx bolt. Torque the 18s to 88 foot-pounds and the Torx bolt to 88 foot-pounds. The front differential bracket is done. All the bolts are tight. Mounted to the differential, mounted to the subframe. Now let's head back to complete the rear diff bushing. Line up this plate right here. Get the bolt that came with the kit for the right side. Loctite. It takes some maneuvering, the subframe up and down, the differential up and down to get the bolts to line up. But that went in smoothly, and the factory bolt went in. Now I just have to put the 21mm nut in the back of the factory bolt. The diff bushings have been installed. Torque these down to 88 foot-pounds. It's hard to line this one up perfectly because it spins, but I was able to do that one nicely, but no one's going to see this anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now it's time to remount the subframe, the exhaust, etc. Alright guys, that's a wrap. Powerflex dual mount diff bracket has been installed. It was a lot of work, but I got it done. There's the diff bushing in the rear. The camera comes out bluish, but the bushings are indeed purple. So these are the street bushings. Here's a shot of the front of the differential bushings. It's hard to see because the heat shield and exhaust is back on. The good thing is that for the front diff bushings, you don't have to drop the drive shaft whatsoever. You can just leave it on and just work around it. So there's some pretty good DIYs out there, and also Powerflex website has a DIY as well. This was a quick overview. Can't wait to try this out on the track in a couple weeks. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe. Thanks for watching.